Hi everyone, my name is Ryan and I'm the Midlife Skier. While taking a long ski weekend road trip in early February 2026, I skied at a few ski resorts in the Northwest Virginia area. Based out of a hotel in Harrisonburg, Virginia, I chose to go and meet up with my family at Wintergreen Ski Resort on the second day, Saturday, February 7th. I've never been to Wintergreen, and since I'm new to skiing again, I want to check out every ski option anywhere vaguely near our home in North Carolina. Today, I'm going to go through my ski day at Wintergreen, Virginia, and try not to bash it as bad as I did Beach Mountain in an earlier episode because we didn't have a great day there. The drive to Wintergreen from Harrisonburg was just over 1 hour, though it was almost 3 hours, about 2 hours and 45 minutes for my family coming from home in North Carolina to meet me. The drive from Harrisonburg was pretty easy as it was mostly interstate. As usual, I got there somewhat early, about 45 minutes before opening, about 8:15 a.m. Even getting there early, I got a parking spot pretty far away from the ski area, and apparently it was one of the better lots because it got even worse. Unlike any other place I've been that I can think of, Wintergreen reserves all of the convenient and semi-convenient parking spots for property owners at the resort, and you'll find this is a theme. After parking and getting geared up, we began the long uphill slog to the actual resort. We really couldn't figure out how to get to the slope, so we just followed everyone into the main hotel area. From there, we figured out to keep going through the hotel lobby, and the slope was on the other side of the building. Similar to Snowshoe, Wintergreen is an inverted resort where the lodging and main village are at the top of the mountain. Once we got out on the slope, we saw some people skiing, but a friendly employee let us know that we had to wait until 9 a.m. to start going downhill, as early hours were for property owners only. This wasn't a big deal as it was 8:55 a.m. and he was nice about it. At 9 a.m. he gave the signal and we all headed downhill for our first runs at Wintergreen. As always, I was on my Armada Declivity 88C skis. We started off by going down and over to the big Acorn Lift side of the mountain. To get there, you go in a tunnel under a road. Little morning warm-up. We did several runs on this side as they're all blue and black and were fun for everyone in the family. One thing I did notice quickly is that the snow conditions were not great. There was a fair amount of hardpack and ice, and the grooming wasn't super great. I had a hard fall in the middle of one run because there was like a 1 foot drop I didn't see going from one side of the run to the other. It's like it was really two runs groomed separately and at two different kind of heights or angles. Around late morning, when things were getting quite crowded in the Big Acorn area, I decided to go to the advanced slope area. I was hoping things would be less crowded in the advanced only area. At first it was okay, but by noon the advanced area was getting extremely crowded. The runs took about 3 to 4 minutes, but the lift line was building to about 15 to 20 minutes long. It didn't help that there was a special line for, guess who, property owners. They got to cut the main line, and there were a lot of them doing it there that day. In the advanced area, I also noticed that the slope conditions were not great. The snow was, again, icy, the grooming was incomplete, and the runs were kind of narrow, especially for, I don't know, the semi-advanced steep slopes, especially for the number of people trying to go down them. At this point, as I said, it was getting very crowded. I left around noon to head back up and grab some food with the family at the lodge. Of course, I had another nasty fall on the way out and then another painfully long lift line to get back up to where the food was. Basically, we all had a pretty bad time at Wintergreen. First of all, the layout of the resort was really confusing, at least to me. In addition to having trouble finding the slope, we couldn't find anywhere to eat. There was no normal big cafeteria lodge eating area. There were 2 sit-down restaurants that each had 2-hour waits and 1 counter service pizza place. Mind you, the pizza place was inside of an unmarked door around the corner. So we had to get someone to show us where it was finally. The detached building that looked like what I would have thought was the lodge ended up being the rental and locker area, which was as far as you could get from the parking area, by the way. Second, speaking of the pizza place, this ended up being a fiasco as well once we finally found it. My wife was able to grab a half of a table that we shared with another family, and we got some of our food, but our other food never came out. It's one of those places where they call your number when it's ready, but they never did, and there were 4 of us listening for it. She went up 3 different times to the counter asking what the status was or where her food was, and was told they were working on it. Finally, on the 4th try, the manager pointed to it over sitting on a counter or behind the counter and just said, "Oh yeah, it's been there waiting for you for 30 minutes. We called you a while ago." And so of course at this point, my wife quite reasonably lost it and demanded a refund, which she did get, but she never did end up eating anything there, which really sucked. Besides the confusing layout and horrible food situation, as mentioned earlier, I found the snow conditions to be pretty bad. They said they had been making snow and they got a foot of snow the week before, but I couldn't tell it. It was extremely cold and windy when we were there, so maybe the slopes were windblown. I don't know. In addition to this, the grooming was pretty patchy. It'd be good in some areas, but other areas would just be messed up, chunky. I ended up with two pretty hard falls that day, and at first I was really trying to figure out why my skiing was so bad all of a sudden. But given what happened the next day at another resort, I came to realize it was much more about the conditions than it was with my sudden loss of skiing technique. Spoiler alert, I had a really good day the following day at a different resort. The final big negative that struck us all was the feeling that we kind of weren't welcome there. My son called it a country club ski resort, and I think that hit the nail on the head for me. Everywhere we went, property owners got a completely different experience than we, the unwashed masses, did. They had their own lift lines, their own parking, their own places to eat. And I understand that most ski resorts rely on real estate to make any money. But of all the high-end places we've been, like Beaver Creek, people, none made a day tripper like me feel like an annoying inconvenience and that we were only there to help offset the operating costs. Earlier in the season, I made a video about the outcry some people were making about the reserve pass at some Alterra resorts. At the time, I said these fears were overblown and that I wasn't worried about this at our local Alterra resort, Snowshoe. And I stand behind this after our visit to Snowshoe on Martin Luther King weekend. We had a great time and never felt slighted or unequal, even with the tiny number of people that were using the special Reserve Pass lift line. On the other hand, I now see exactly what people are afraid of for their local resorts turning into, somewhere like what we saw at Wintergreen. As for the actual skiing at Wintergreen, it was okay at best. The advanced runs weren't very steep, just super narrow. The narrowness and icy conditions are the main thing that made them appropriate for advanced skiers only. The intermediate side, Big Acorn Lift, was fun with 3 or 4 good ski runs there, but the lift was slow and that side was being used for ski racing all day. So that exacerbated the crowdedness, the lift lines, and it shut down one of the funnest slopes over there. In fact, the snow conditions were so bad and the crowds were so bad that my son and I just ended up leaving around 1 p.m. after we had finally eaten our pizza. At least we got our food. We had done what we wanted and we saw no point in sticking around for further abuse. My wife and daughter stayed a little longer but ended up regretting it. My wife had a really bad experience on a black diamond run. As I would have expected with the rough conditions, short day, and massive crowds, my ski stats were not very good. But here they are. Top speed was 36 miles per hour. Average speed was 19.7 miles per hour. Total vertical feet were 7,204 feet. Unsurprisingly, with the conditions as they were, my carve score showed no improvement by getting a 100 in parallel skiing. Honestly, I'm shocked I was even able to do that. This is the same score I got the day before while at Timberline, and at least I didn't regress, so that was good. The 2 hard falls were the first all season that day that still hurt the next day, which really wasn't fun. In summary, Wintergreen really sucked for all of us. If you're a property owner here, good for you, go have fun. For anyone else, I would not recommend it. There are way better resorts in the area, and as I mentioned, we went to a different resort the following day that wasn't too far from there and just had a way better experience. The only defense I can make for Wintergreen is that we were there on a Saturday in early February. Of course, it was nuts and a bad experience. Maybe the lesson is to not go skiing on a Saturday. That's one of my wise old brother's rules. Either way, given all the other issues we encountered, I would much rather go to one of the other several resorts around there. And by the way, some of these other resorts we've been to on Saturdays and just haven't experienced big issues, not in the way we did at Wintergreen. The whole point of this season was to try out several resorts in our area to see where we want to go back to next season. At least we can definitely cross Wintergreen off of that list now. So anyway, that's it for Wintergreen, and I hope you have a great day.